G'day guys, and welcome back to the channel. Today I'll be doing my tips for round 24 of the season. I can't believe we're at the last game of the home and away season. The year has definitely gone quickly. Alright, on top of the table at the moment, I don't really know if it goes until end of finals. I think it does, but hey, we'll play it by ear there. MRL from PA still right there with me, behind by one. Pretty much everyone got 9 out of 9. As we can see there, it was a relatively straightforward round last week, so no major surprises. Heading into this weekend, though, there might be a few surprises. There might be some resting going on. We'll wait and see how that all pans out with some games that may not have as much on the line as, say, others. We'll start off on the Thursday night against St Kilda and Gold Coast, being held at Marvel Stadium. St Kilda, they had a win. They had the Tigers to contend with. They were able to take care of them relatively easily at the MCG. Gold Coast have lost a lot of games in the second half of the year. They went down to the Lions in their game, most recent encounter. Really tough to pick, especially with Naz out, and they had a couple of injuries against the Blues. But I think because Gold Coast is so bad at Marvel, I'll go to the Saints. But yeah, probably not by much. I'll go 8 points is what comes to mind there. I think we're pretty close. I don't expect the Saints to really blow them out of the water. We'll wait and see what happens. We turn our attention to the MCG Friday night football. This will be a pretty decent game, it has to be said. Collingwood had the Brisbane Lions, the Pies. They had a second draw of season 2026, and it was against the same opponent, and only 1 point separating the previous score that was had for the previous draw. For Brisbane, they keep winning. They've won 9 out of the last 10. They took care of the Suns relatively easily in the Q Clash, or the Pineapple Grapple, as Jimmy Bartell likes to call it. I'm pretty sure that's what he calls it. So hopefully I've got that one right. Brisbane will be winning this. They've been in pretty red hot form outside of a blip on the radar, which was against the Blues, where they rocked up half asleep. But outside of that, yeah, they'll win and they'll be fine. They've beaten Collingwood the last few times. The Pies will give them, I don't know if they'll rest Dacos. I don't know what they'll do there. I don't suspect that their position will change too significantly either way. Over to Marvel Stadium, we've got Carlton and Fremantle. Carlton getting a bit of love here. This one will be at Marvel, and the Blues, they had a draw as well, so 2 draws in the same round. They drew against the Western Bulldogs in a real tight encounter, clearly. The Dockers flexed their muscles late to beat the Crows, about 4 goals in the end there. Tricky game to pick because the Dockers, doesn't matter what happens for them. So, there's definitely a tendency for Carlton to potentially be up and about to get the win, and that could affect where they go. I think they play before the Western Bulldogs do. They do. I'll go the Dockers probably by a kick or 2. I think it's going to be very close. You want to go into finals in good form, but it depends if they rest a few players. If they rest a significant amount of players, I will have to change my pick over to Carlton. As it stands right now, I think Fremantle will just get the job done. Carlton will challenge them big time, though. No question about that. We've got the Twilight game at Melbourne and the Bulldogs. Melbourne have to keep winning, and they have been winning recently. They smashed Port Adelaide. I think it was about 70 points in the end. For the Western Bulldogs, they had a draw against the Blues, just mentioned before. Because at the MCG, Melbourne in general have a pretty good record against the Dogs lately. And yeah, they've only lost 1 game in the MCG, which was to Geelong. But outside of that, they've had a pretty squeaky clean record. They need a win. Dogs a bit better than Brews, so I reckon they'll get the job done. Over to the category, Geelong facing Richmond. Geelong had a win over North Melbourne. They've won 5 on the trot, I think, by the looks of it. I'm going to say Melbourne was started off with the Saints. And yeah, they defeated North Melbourne by 15 points after trailing by 39 in the second term. Richmond went down to the Saints. That was about 30-40 points in favour of the Saints. Geelong win pretty comfortably at home. Should get the job done. Jezza Cameron potentially back, so we'll wait and see. But yeah, you'd expect Geelong to win and win well. Over to the Adelaide Oval, we've got Adelaide who are hosting the GWS Giants. The Crows here went down to the Dockers. They had a pretty good crack at it, but just weren't classy enough to get the job done. Dockers there won was about 4 goals. The GWS Giants had a win over. Who did they play? The Eagles. That's correct. Yes, they thumped the Eagles. That one was about 9-10 goals, pretty easily in the end. Because Adelaide Oval, pretty happy to go with the Crows here. The Giants have had a pretty rubbish season as well, has to be said. Okay, this one's interesting. So we've got the Sunday game here, and Essendon and Port Adelaide. We've got the Bombers here, who they haven't won much lately. Port Adelaide have done a bit more winning than they have. The Bombers went down to the Swans. They were pretty competitive after quarter time. So, yeah, that was interesting to say the least. But, yeah, still went down. I think it was about 6 goals, thereabouts. And Port Adelaide, they got absolutely thumped by the Demons and have had a pretty disappointing back half of the season. Aliir's a big out. I assume with the concussion he's going to be out. And something is making me go towards the Bombers' way with them at home. 12:20 game, also very interesting time slot. I'm not really sure the logic behind it, but semi-leaning towards the Bombers. If I go back to some earlier season form, Port Adelaide were playing, they nearly beat the Hawks here and played some good footy, but I don't know. Something's just telling me the Bombers might get up and about here, so we'll wait and see. Sydney have North Melbourne at the SCG. The Swans, they're in the headlines for all sorts of reasons at the moment, but I won't go into that level of detail. But they got the win over the Bombers and were able to find the 4 points there. North Melbourne, very brave against the Cats, tore them to shreds at times, but weren't able to come home with the 4 points. Sydney will be winning here at their home deck. We'll see how all the news headlines goes for them over this week. Last game of the home and away season, we've got a very late game for Sunday. So that is West Coast and Hawthorn. West Coast will be trying to get a W on the board to finish off season 2026, but I don't like their chances really. They lost to the GWS Giants quite comfortably. Hawthorn had another draw and haven't quite been firing on all cylinders, but I suspect that they'll be getting the job done here. Again, I think they'll win. They'll win by a big margin. Is sort of my prediction there. All right, let's have a look-ski at my tips for round 24. Subject to change, of course, if there's significant changes in the back half of the week. If they happen to be, I will post a comment on this video for full disclosure and full visibility. St Kilda by 8 points. Brisbane, Fremantle get the job done. Melbourne, Geelong, Adelaide, Essendon, Sydney and Hawthorn to finish off round 24. I'm sure there'll be some upsets. There'll be some chaos and carnage. That's one thing I'm certain of. Okie doke. Well, I'll leave it there, guys. Comment who you think's going to win over the weekend. If you got any thoughts or feelings about some potential upsets, love to hear those as well. Give the video a like and subscribe away so you can see how I'm doing the tips each and every week. Really appreciate all the support. But until next time, have a good one. Really appreciate it. And we'll see you on the next video.